Welcome to AFL Uncensored. I'm your host, Tej Johannesson, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Omari Fraser. This podcast is brought to you by Danny Warwick and Warwick Grain Carriers. Travis Savitsky and Jeff Rambo have also donated to the podcast. So we are still always looking for donations to reach our goal to allow us to fund the podcast all the way through next season and in the off season, and hopefully doing some stuff with junior and high school football. So any donations or sponsorships are appreciated. Any donations over $100 will get an automatic invite onto the podcast. And any or sponsorships over 200 will get mentioned on the podcast for whatever your company is or whatever you want us to mention. So reach out if you have anything like that, or if you want to help the podcast in any way. We greatly appreciate it so we can keep doing this. We are on I think this is episode 19 already, which is kind of crazy. We're pumping out our 19th episode here. So episode 20 will be the next one, and I've got some special ideas for that one to make it a really good one to celebrate episode 20. This week, this podcast is going to be great. So I have some interesting league information regarding the league and the Cold Lake Jets and some sanctions that were brought upon the Cold Lake Jets. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the unbelievable games we had this weekend. 3 amazing games, 2 big upsets, and 1 game that was really close, and one of the better games I've personally played in my AFL career as far as just clean football, physicality, dudes balling out for 60 minutes. So lots to talk about. We got some great games coming up. Bucks heading to the Jets. There is so much involved this week with playoff implications. That game's going to be huge. We've got rivalry week with the Irish and the Pack. No love lost there between Irish and Pack, especially with a couple Pack members heading over to the Irish this year. 3 big pieces. And of course, the Pack still just, finding ways to win games, even losing, 4 key pieces from last year, and myself and Sagan and Vardo and Tyler Shaver, but they keep going. And then the upcoming or the uprising Cowboys versus the Elite, which I'm also really interested in. So, Omari, how you doing? How's life as a dad? How's your week been?
Life as a dad is good. Funny enough, just before we recorded, my girlfriend was like, "Hey, you gotta change a poopy diaper here quick before you go." So, got that in. I'm getting pretty good. But life as a dad is pretty fun. It's pretty awesome. It was actually quite exciting because my son Arden, it was his first time to come to a game. So my girlfriend came out and had him in the stands, and I guess he got to be around. He slept through the entire thing. Like the little man sleeps for anything. But it was one of those like surreal moments because that's one part of the AFL I remember seeing when I first got introduced to the league around like 2014. How like guys would have their kids come out and everything, and it means a lot to see their dads play, and dads playing for their kids. And I had that moment for me where granted he's an infant newborn here, but it definitely is a surreal moment to have them see them play and compete, and something to role model after. So that was quite a surreal moment to enjoy my little with the family, and to grow from there. But no, it was definitely an exciting week of football all over, which was huge for the league.
Yeah, and we've been saying since the very beginning, since we started doing this in February, that we thought the league was going to be one of the best years as far as parity, and it's really working out to be that way. So, which is super exciting. And we're going to dive into it. We're going to dive into the playoff implications, what all these games mean, and a bunch of other stuff in between. So, first off, there has been some developing issues with the league. Essentially, what has gone on is there was a letter drafted by all the teams in the league except the Jets. So it was drafted and signed by all the other teams towards the league president, Vince Roth, basically complaining about the Jets' conduct during games. So whether that be rough play or I guess some apparent shit talking towards people in the stands, a lot of stuff that kind of goes on in football and is kind of pretty normal as far as football goes. A lot of hearsay stuff. I saw some videos of Dave Cuthbertson yelling at some fans, but nothing vulgar in those videos was said, but there was complaints about that. Anyways, long story short, letter was sent to the league basically asking the league to act and punish Cold Lake. So they sent the letter to the president, Vince Roth, to basically call a meeting. Because here's the thing. If all the teams, or if the 5 teams are going to send a letter, it's those 5 teams who vote. So it doesn't matter. Clearly, they're going to vote against Cold Lake. So what they were trying to do was get a hearing called by the president. The president called the hearing, and they made their cases. Basically, the rest of the teams in the league said something of the sort of Cold Lake's too rough or gets too many UR penalties, even though I don't think that's necessarily true. I think Edmonton had a bunch of guys kicked out of the game. Some of the stuff that guys have said to me this year have been worse than some of the stuff I've heard that Cold Lake's been saying. So it seems maybe a slight hit job going on. But what happened is obviously the league, I guess, voted based on no real bylaws or rules that Cold Lake was basically being naughty and would then be put in bad standing. And so here's what's going on. Cold Lake is now being put into bad standing, which means they don't get a vote on any league matters. They're being fined $1,000, which is, according to the league, going to be put towards betterment of the league, which is laughable from my perspective, because you've had an opportunity to better the league for 2 years. You've done nothing. So now you're going to fine the Jets $1,000 to somehow better the league. So that's a fucking joke. So Teague Sherman, who's on the Jets, it was the vice president. They made him step down. So Teague had to step down from the vice president's role. And the league, and look, I've got friends that are on the league board. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to tell you how I feel, whether you're my friend or not. I disagree with my wife all the time. She disagrees with me all the time. We still love each other. If you're offended by what I'm about to say and you're on the board because we were friends or what we've put, whatever, suck it up a little bit. This is just the reality. So Teague Sherman had to step down from VP, and the league specifically was going after 2 players, Carlos Millsap and Dave Cuthbertson. Now, because the league understands that if they were to suspend those players themselves, that the Jets would be able to get what's called a tribunal, which is a third party, a 3-person third party that would hear the evidence on player suspensions. Because that's written in the bylaw that if there's a player suspension, if the league suspends a player, that player can appeal to an appeal tribunal, which is made up of people who aren't on the league board to make that decision. Now, of course, these players would not be suspended if a tribunal was held, because they've actually, there's no evidence that they've done anything that's enough to be suspended from the league. Haven't broken any bylaws. But what the league did, and this is snaky as fuck, what the league did is they told Cold Lake, so Cold Lake's in bad standing now. That means they have to reapply to the league next year to be a team. So the league actually has to vote them back into the league next year. Now, do you really think that this league is going to do that? I'm not sure about that. But here's what they're doing. They're blackmailing Cold Lake. And they're saying, we're not going to suspend those 2 players. And they're admitting that they don't have any evidence to suspend those 2 players. But they're saying you need to suspend those players, Cold Lake. Cold Lake needs to kick both those players off the team. And if you do that, Cold Lake, it will look favorable on you when you have to reapply to the league. That is blackmail, because the league knows they don't have any evidence to suspend these players. And so they were forcing Cold Lake's hand to either remove those players or essentially have your team not voted back in. And in I don't really care what side you're on. Like, you can think that Cold Lake players are terrible and they're saying terrible things to people and they're taking cheap shots. Even if that were the case, this kind of manipulation and blackmail from a league is unacceptable. And that's what's happening. And so now Cold Lake tried to get a tribunal on the whole decision of the sanctions that got put on them, but the league conveniently got rid of that option a couple of years ago and said you only get tribunals for player suspension. So now Cold Lake can't do anything. Their punishment stands. I still don't really know what the crime is. Apparently they were being too mean, even though many other teams have said stuff and had guys kicked out of the league. This, to me, seems like a hit job. It seems to me that there are certain teams, specifically Edmonton, who are scared of Cold Lake and don't want to have to work hard to win, don't want to have to beat Cold Lake to win. You're a joke. If you're a real football player, You want to play the best teams and the best players. And if you lose playing those better teams, that's okay. I don't want to win football games by kicking out the best team in the league. That is the attitude of losers. But we seem to have a league, a certain people who want to consistently not have to earn their way to win. So you will never win that way, even if you try to kick teams out of the league, because karma doesn't work that way and the football gods don't work that way. To me, it's a joke. I don't necessarily know exactly if any of these accusations are true. The evidence certainly doesn't say so, and that's why the league's not suspending these players. But we're putting all these punishments on a team that, when I look at it from the outside, regardless of their on-field, first of all, it's football. A lot of shit happens on a football field. They are great in their community. They're out in their community often. They have unbelievable sponsorship, unbelievable fan base. They've been a consistent winner in the league, and we're out to get this team. And so, again, regardless of what you think, I think this whole situation is a joke. I am just now being allowed to talk about this on the podcast, getting the permission from the Jets after they were seeking all their options. Omari, you're just kind of listening to this as I speak. What are your kind of? We didn't have time to go over this because it's kind of happening quick. But what are kind of your thoughts on this? Are you with me on that, or are you kind of?
Yeah, that's a lot to take in, and it's a lot to take in. I'm trying to process all pretty fast, and it's unfortunate to hear. Like, I know there's been, like, I think the one thing, like, just like a couple thoughts that come into my head right now is the first one. I think people have a hard time dealing with someone who's like who can talk a lot, and I think that's something that Cole Lake will admit. Like, you got some guys who will love to talk the talk, and they got guys that can back it up. And it's all fair in competition. But I feel like there's some players and maybe some boards that just don't vibe with that, or feel like, hey, the only way to stop them is to do it off the field. And I feel like that's now where it's come to. And so, evidence be evidence. I don't know. I've never seen it. I've just first I'm hearing about it. But the one part I don't like is the whole collusion, collaborating, like I did. That's everything coming, like people trying to kick this team out, because like we already had one team, full with a Fort Mac, and like to try and then kick another team out, like that's two teams. That would be an attempt to have two teams out. Like, we're a better league with more teams. And that's kind of where I stand. But I don't like the idea of collusion, because then that makes it sound like, really our championships won in the back office. Like, is that what we're gonna say now? Like, what if it was the Wolfpack that was, 15-0, undefeated at home, undefeated for the season? Like, maybe we were talking, like, I'm trying to do that to us, like, it's tied. I don't like that side of it, because it makes it sound like the power is all on the board. And I think one thing is, as a player and someone now who's taking some time to really try and learn about the league, is like the bylaws and this and that. I feel like it can be very confusing, and I love to have some clarification on like what bylaws stand, what's in them, like a place to like address it, because I feel like it's tough as a player now, just hearing about it, like there's nothing really I can do. Like, the best thing I can do is really just know what the bylaws and try to work around them. But I feel like teams just try and study it so much to utilize it, to where I just think end of the day, it just sounds like championships are trying to be won in the back office.
Yeah, I mean, the bylaws are terrible. Here's the situation, right? So when I was president of the league, and it was only for a few months before they basically corrupted their way of voting me out. Story for another time. But the reason why they didn't want me is because I was making changes, and I was fighting against the old guard, and I was trying to get a new trophy, and I was trying to get a new way of fees and making the league an actual profitable league that could spend money on itself and help sustain itself, rather than being sustained simply by the players playing the game. The bylaws are need to be completely blown up and rewritten from scratch. And there's a bunch of stuff that needs to be added. There's a bunch of stuff that needs to be cleared up, because there is a lot of kind of gray areas within the bylaws, because they haven't been updated or really looked over by a lawyer, by a professional person who understands all this stuff, which is what I was trying to do. I actually had hired a lawyer to look at the bylaws, to rewrite the bylaws or help us rewrite them so that they would fit the standards to be accepted to be a nonprofit, because the league is not even a nonprofit status. What that means is the league is nothing. The league has no ground to stand on. They have no ground to force their bylaws. They are completely nothing. If they get sued, they have no protection because they're their own entity. So if they get sued, it's actually the actual board members would be the ones that would be out of pocket for that. So I was in the middle of getting that all done when they booted me out, and then that was 2 years ago, and they never followed up on it. So I paid this lawyer money and to do this stuff, and then they basically wasted that. I paid $1,000 to get a brand new website called Sports Engine. If anyone's familiar with Sports Engine, you can look it up. It's an amazing platform for sports websites, and the league just abandoned that. So they just let that $1,000 go. Which is really unfortunate. So there was a lot that I was trying to do at that time. And then since they got rid of me, they've done nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, we currently do not have a website. If you Google Alberta Football League right now, it'll the first thing that'll pop up is a link to the website. And when you click that link to the website, it comes up with nothing. So the website is down now. Apparently, they're working on getting it back up, but we are almost done the season. We haven't had a working website. The only reason that just now Cold Lake came out with the stats and standings, and the only reason they had that was because you and I, Omari, because you posted it to our AFL page and I got it from the guy, and then we're out there doing it. So if you can sense the frustration in my voice, it's because I'm frustrated with a lot of different things, and I don't really care what your feelings are as far as if you like Cold Lake or not. The process that was gone about to hand these sanctions down is embarrassing. It's wrong. It sets a terrible precedent. And I think the league should be ashamed of themselves for doing that. So we're going to touch more on this subject. I'm going to ask Teague if he wants to come on the podcast and discuss this a little bit more. Maybe even Ryan Belrose, who's really familiar with some of the bylaws and the way things have been done in the past. So
yeah. Well, one thing I want to add too, just hearing about the punishments to kick off Teague, who I've seen has been very for the league, trying to grow it and bring some more positive news to the league, to kick. I just there's a lot happening here. I feel like there's a lot of ulterior motives. I think I pronounced that wrong, but
no, you're good. Yeah.
But I feel like there's a lot of those motives where, hopefully these motives are trying to bring the league up, not for personal gain or personal ego. Because I feel like when you're in these positions of power, positions of, a lot of choice and sway, you have to put your ego to the side and attend to what's best. And I feel like that's where, as individuals, maybe there's some board members that have a hard time doing that or want to stick a point or whatever it is. And again, I'm just going off of what I know and how my first thoughts here, but me as a player of the AFL, I hope things are decided on where it's evidence-based, ego to the side, being present and trying to think, okay, what's better for the league? Because if it's Cold Lake that's competing and bring a high level and, not say they're scaring players, but if they're doing that, then is what it is. They top the top, they can back it up. It's pretty straightforward as that. And hopefully it's stuff that's dealt on the field and not some back office trying to swindle their way to a championship.
Yeah. Well, and it's ego and there's a lot of spite too. There's people that just don't like the league tried to kick Cold Lake out in 2019. And if I wasn't there as president at the time and didn't fight for them, they wouldn't be around right now to begin with. So the league has never wanted Cold Lake there for whatever reason. I think it's ridiculous because for all the things I've mentioned before with the community and the work that they do and the work that they put into their team. So I think teams should want to be more like Cold Lake in a lot of ways. And obviously Cold Lake's made some mistakes in the past and hopefully they fix that. But we should be looking at a league to move forward, not staying status quo, which we kind of have been. So
and one I think I want to add to this too, especially because we got a lot of ears of people. If I was a player who, this is something now too, where as a board member, you serve the team as well the players, and I imagine that'd be something too now which can be resonate. But if I was a player now, I'd want to talk to my board representative and be hey, what is the board's thoughts on? What is my team's board or representative's thoughts on this? Can we get a team discussion about this? Because this should be a democracy, right? Not a dictatorship whatever that person says goes. Like, hopefully these conversations come from, hey, we had a conversation with our guys. This is how we're feeling. This is now what we're wanting to move forward. But it comes from like a cumulative representation of the group, of the team.
Yeah, that would be ideal. I think that's been a missing piece, is like actually having more people involved, especially when it comes to like voting for the leadership of the league. Like, I'm of the opinion that if you're an eligible player for the playoffs this year, meaning you've played the 3 games, you're a full member of the league, that you should get a vote. Right now, the only people that vote on the board members are the board members of the teams. So I think that everyone should get a say in who runs the league. We'll see if it ever comes to that, but that would be the fair way to do it. So anyways, we'll move on from this subject and move into some more lighter stuff. Okay, let's talk about last week's games. These were absolutely insane. I was in Grand Prairie, long ass road trip up there, checking the score when I got there, kind of seeing it was close. Airdrie was up and Cold Lake was up, and back and forth watching it kind of like during my kind of pregame warm up, and then seeing that Airdrie won. My initial thoughts are like, I was shocked because I said on last week's podcast, I didn't see a way that Airdrie moved the ball, but I had said on a couple podcasts, and I think Anton listened, but I had said Airdrie needs to throw the football. Like, stop trying to run the ball 30 times a game. Put the ball in Josh's hands. Let him throw the football. Let those receivers work. Sagan is out there now playing receiver, doing a good job. You've got Bardo. Like put the ball in the air, and they did that, and they had success against a really good Cold Lake secondary. Let's not joke ourselves. The Cold Lake secondary is very, very good, but the Irish kind of found a little bit of holes in some of that action, and found a way to move the ball and score points. A big touchdown by Sagan on a deep ball. They kind of split and then cut inside the safety. We had a blocked punt that Cold Lake had that got called off. Like, there was like everything that kind of happened in this game happened. And on top of that, Airdrie pulls out the win, and it creates a lot of interesting situations in the standings now. If the Jets and Airdrie are tied, if the Jets and Airdrie tie and they're the only 2 teams tied, the Jets will win that tiebreak. So all the Jets have to do to clinch first is to win this weekend. But what were your thoughts when you kind of saw the results of the game? Were you at the game, Omari? Were you watching it? Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I was at the game. I was posting some clips. It was a very close game to where I felt Airdrie did a great job sticking to their game plan. Just like me, I was really trying to approach it. Yes, like, we play the next week, so I was like watching there, but as well, I was looking at it as a consumer, but I was like, I felt like they did a great job sticking to their game plan, not getting overhyped. And Anton did a great. There's a moment where they got up like 14-0. Anton was telling them like, "Hey, calm right down. Like, stay in the moment. Don't lose yourself. Like, you know who you're playing against." And of course, they came back, but you can tell there's a lot of composure, which that's Anton did a great job with the coaching staff and the culture there, which you just got to give props to there. I have to say with Cold Lake, they know how to respond. Every time they were down, they made a play, kick returns, punt returns, blunt punt. Like, you talk about guy like, and this sticks to where their guys too. They're making plays like it's unfortunate some of those like plays didn't stick, like the blocked punt for a touchdown. I believe I think that was it, and a few other things. But like, they need to answer back. They got a kickoff return touchdown. I believe it's number 81. Torch everybody. That is quick too. Like, I was like watching, like seeing speed real life is that's always so awesome to see. But I was like, man, they got some speed there. They know how to answer, composure. I know their quarterback got dinged out for a little bit and came back in, and it was something too where I felt Airdrie did a good job setting the game plan, and Cole did a great job responding, and they just needed that one more. I think a few more plays and could be a different result. You don't know, but it's still very close. I know it's the question now that I actually post on the YouTube was, Cold Lake right now is ranked number 1 in, I guess, everyone's eyes. And I'm sure some eyes, does this now win put Airdrie over the Jets? Or is it now Jets, Irish, Bucks, Pack, Edmonton, GP? Like, is there any changes in the top 2? And so, people might have their opinions, but I feel like it's like it can be close, but I think when you look at the differential, like Cold Lake does have that, home game, home roster on them where when they first played.
Yeah, so I guess that's the kind of the thing too, right? Like everyone was talking about Cold Lake traveling light. I looked on the film, it looked like they had most of their guys there. I I may be missing some offensive linemen. Sometimes that's kind of hard to tell. But I don't know. I think Airdrie just had those 2 weeks off. To me, it looked like they were prepared. It looked like they were confident. It looked like, and I mean, this all comes from Anton, right? You are a reflection of your coach, and regardless of what level you're playing, and you can feel Anton's energy and his presence on his team is always kind of, it's never too up, never too down. He understands the moment, and you got to love a coach like that. You got, like, I had a coach like that, Devin Hand, who just kind of understood the moment, kept cool, kept calm. You could look at him and everything kind of settled down. And Anton's kind of got that presence about him. Obviously, his guys respect him, and I think I'm glad to say that last week I was wrong. That they moved the ball. They used the talent that they had and threw the football. Their defense made plays when they needed to make plays. They were flying all over the place. Ty Bissett had a massive game, 3 interceptions back there. Ty's a guy I've played against for a long time, former Grand Prairie driller. And I was excited. I was happy to see it. And I was happy to see, but mostly because of parity. I like that Cold Lake got a loss. I like that now we're going to go up to Cold Lake, and Cold Lake's going to be fired up and be ready to play their A game, because that's going to help us. Like, win or lose for us this week, we know we're getting Cold Lake's best, and that's going to help us moving forward. So I think it's good for the league. Really good job, Airdrie. Congratulations, Anton. Congratulations, the entire Irish organization. Bunch of good people there working hard for a long time now in their 9th season. That's by far the biggest win in their 9 years in the league by far. So on the other side, I think the Jets probably aren't going to be happy because their standards for themselves are so high. I mean, they turned Airdrie over a bunch of times. The quarterback got hurt at a point, which kind of stuck him back a little bit. I think Cold Lake's going to be fine. They've got the leaders in that group. Teague's not going to allow them to sulk for very long. They're going to be back on the horse and ready to go this week. So overall, I mean, really, really cool game. And it must have been a fun game to watch and a fun game to play in.
Yeah. Yeah. They get, I'm not going to worry about, is this a downfall of Cold Lake? Like, it's nowhere near that. They're going to realign, get back in the film, retouch on some things. It's better to have a loss now than in the playoffs. So get it out of the system. You learn more from a loss than you do from wins. Like, maybe now the guys are going to go and watch film just a little bit different and attack different details and everything and go from there. So if anything, it just raises the standard and raises the level of the league. And, like you said, like, you're heading now into Cold Lake with a team that's going to be, more prepared, more ready to go, not wanting to go back-to-back losses, because that could create other conversation. But you guys are like, hey, we can go in and test your mettle because playoff time is coming, and you want to know where we rank out and what kind of level we can raise to.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on to we'll do your game last. We'll move on to the Bucks versus Cowboys. So this was, look, I think we were excited when we talked about Grand Prairie at the beginning of the year because of how hard their defense played and some of the recruits they had picked up. And I mean, they haven't disappointed. Yes, they're 0-4. They're in last place in the league right now, but I would say that their defense was the best defense that we have faced so far. Better than Edmonton's, better than the Wolfpacks, better than Airdrie's. That Grand Prairie defense was legit. They were prepared. They were ready for what we were going to bring. They had linebackers shooting gaps really well. They had a good plan on their coverages. They hit hard. They were extremely physical. They had a safety that came from the States, from U Pike. I believe his name is Cameron, who was an absolute monster. The fastest, most hard-hitting safety I've ever seen live. Like, this guy was scary. And then he was like apologizing after for hitting guys too hard because he was just like, he just doesn't, no, seriously, like I was like, man, do not apologize. I'm going to use your film when I'm showing my high school kids how to play the game. Like this guy, watch Grand Prairie safety, I think number 16 on film. If you watch, just an absolute stud and a really, really good guy too. I enjoyed talking to him afterwards. They're legit on defense. Their offense is pretty much the opposite right now. They've got one guy in Tyson who's a really good receiver, and Trace can throw the ball, but they just a little bit kind of out of sync. Some drop balls that they probably should have had. They don't have much of a running game. I personally think they should take that number 6 safety Cameron and put in the running back, because that guy has running back written all over him. And if they did that could go a long way to help them win some games. But this is a team that, is most likely, or no, actually for sure, unless they can beat the elite, I guess there is a chance they could move to 5th and the elite could be 6th, but they're going to be 5th or 6th. But they can win that playoff game. That defense is that good. If they can find anything with their offense to flip the field, that defense is that good. I'll say this. I don't know. And we were talking about this off air before the podcast, but I kind of stopped talking shit like a few years ago. I was like, when I was younger, I used to talk a lot of shit. And then you kind of grow up and it kind of gets old and you really do let your play do the talk. And I think most people can kind of resonate with that. But since doing this podcast, and obviously everybody's listening and everybody knows my name and knows who I am, now I get shit talk left, right, and center about the most random shit. And usually it's about shit that I talk about on the podcast. So I'll give you an example. Grand Prairie, I play corner on defense, right? So I'm obviously like by the other team's sideline for quite a majority of the game. And guys are just like randomly talking to me about like how I hit a 3-wood 150 yards and basically, and I'm 140 pounds and like a lot of like you're small and you're weak kind of things. And first, it's because I talk about golf a lot on the podcast, right? And so they're just always looking for ways. I'm just like giving it back now, which I love. It's actually been a lot of fun just giving back the shit talk. And I just want to put the record straight. And anyone who's golfing with me can understand this. I bombed that motherfucker. Okay. My drive, I can outdrive you. If you're listening to this podcast, I will outdrive you. I'm a regular 300 plus driver. That's not a joke. Anyone listening to this podcast says I bang the ball. Okay. And I'm also not 140 pounds. I'm currently at 161, and that's my in-season weight. Okay. Off season, a little bit heavier. But you know what? I don't want to be that heavy. I know what I'm doing with my body. Stop making fun of my weight and stop making fun of my golfing. Okay. But I do appreciate the trash talk on the field. But I had one of my teammates like, man, no, these guys are just relentless on you. I'm like, yeah, I think it's got to be a good thing, right? Like nobody's shit talking shitty players. So I take it as a compliment. The thing that I found funny was because I called Edmonton out, a few weeks ago, because they were like, oh, go back to your podcast, no one listens. And I was like, well, actually you listen, you hate listen, and we get many people that listen. So like they were on the sidelines like, don't talk about the podcast though, don't talk about the podcast, because they don't want me to talk bad about the podcast. And then at the bar after the game, all these guys who were shit talking to me all game are like coming up to me, like shaking my hand, like, Tej, man, love the podcast, love listening, man. Yeah, it's so awesome. I'm like, fuck you. I know exactly what you're doing. You just don't want me to talk shit about you on my podcast. So I get the games you're playing. I'm actually not going to talk shit about you because I think it's funny and I respect that. So keep it up. I do appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun to hear it. And then I appreciate you guys with all the props after the game as well. But back to the game, Cowboys, you guys were awesome. Excellent job. That team should be proud of themselves. Proud of my guys, proud of Brett Bilsma for calling the game. He called the full game on his own there for the first time all year, just called all the plays, kind of trusted him to do that. And he did a really good job. We didn't execute as well as we would like to early in the game, but we kind of came on later in the game. Josh Weeb had an excellent game at wide receiver, made some big catches for us. David Simons was a beast on defense. We had Lucas Green, who was playing his last game of football, had a great game, had a pick and a couple huge hits. He just had surgery on Monday on some issues he's having, so he's going to be done for the year. But so Luke, I wish you well, but he had a great game. So really proud of my guys, proud of the battle. Short crew heading up to Grand Prairie. We had a good night afterwards, and we're gonna look forward to another road trip here to Cold Lake. What were your thoughts? Did you watch the game film at all?
I haven't. No, I didn't get a chance to watch your guys' film. I've been quite deep into Irish film of late, just with our
Fair.
friendship here.
Yeah.
But no, I just was one thing where I if anything, what I did see was that photographer that got some clean photos.
Man, some of those photos were insane.
Like,
You should have seen this camera. The guy's camera it's the biggest camera I've ever seen in my life, dude. I cannot even like explain like how big this fucking camera was. But yeah, he had some cool shots.
yeah, he had some nice ones. I think and we had a little mix around where you posted that thing on my Facebook and everything. So we had a little fun with that. But I that's the one thing when I think of Grand Prairie and like and what they bring in, I guess what we have to expect for us going to them now is like it's going to be a hard hitting, like very physical team, and not to take away from I guess the next defense that I would say is physical like that, but you know with Cold Lake, but I feel like the Cowboys take it because they always are they just want it more, you know, because I feel like they just want it more because in a sense where I just get that sense where like hey. They're prepared. They know they want that win. They're hungry for it. And like, you're always hungry for something that you don't have. And they're constantly trying to earn it. So, you know, I know they might get the lower end of the stick where it's always all ranked last, but those days are coming to an end here with that defense keeps playing the way it is. Like, end of the day, that defense, like, I like to, maybe they're going to be that defense that's like the 2000 Ravens defense, where all you have to do is offense just score a touchdown, the defense will handle the rest.
Well, yeah, and I mean they've had a couple games where they haven't been able to score, so they do need to figure that part out. But yeah, that defense is legit. I'll quickly touch on your game, and then I'll let you kind of take over how you felt. So I was happy. I picked the Pack to win. I played on the Pack last year. I wanted the Pack to win. Obviously, I don't have too much love towards the Elite as a team. I have a lot of guys I like on the team, but as a whole team, I don't really like them. And so I was happy to see the Pack win. I think a lot of people underestimated the Pack all year. I mean, like I said, you lost myself, you lost Vardo, you lost Sagan, you lost Tyler Shaver. Like those are 4 big pieces. But then you come back and Daryl's back and you're back and Soretsky's back and you're kind of filling in pieces. And that game was a crazy high scoring game. People in the league need to figure out, you know, you got to shut down Alex. Like right now, Alex is kind of on another level as far as like what's happening. And what's frustrating for me, Omari, too, is we didn't have him last year. And had we have had him and me and Vardo and yourself and Sagan, that's a whole different story. And it was frustrating because he had some personal stuff going on last year and he had to leave our team halfway through the year. So I wish I never actually really got to play alongside. I think I only played 1 game with him last year, but he's doing really well. You guys are doing really well. That you guys are just continue to I think really shock people. So what was your perspective? How are you guys feeling after that big win? It must have been exciting.
It was a good game where we were able to focus on ourselves, and I felt like it was a game where everyone contributed in their own way. Whereas guys, you know, doing their responsibilities on kickoff and on kickoff return, making their blocks, and everyone was playing for each other, which resulted everyone in like, you know, getting those stats that show that hey, you got a catch here, a tackle here. Everyone did their part there, which really felt good, and it showed because it was, you know, yes, I know Soretsky, he's our number one. Like our stats here he had 10 receiving for 192 yards, 2 tugs, and a 2-point conversion. So he went off. But even after that, like we had guys also step up. So even if like, you know, you take away Soretsky's, you know, just shy of 200 yards, we have other guys who, you know, put up another 250 yards passing wise. So it's nice to see like other guys stepping up and, you know, going from there and having another receiver step up, which is nice because it is a battle where I know Daryl runs a very fundamentally sound defense. Very, people like to call it very basic, the classic, this and that. But I've always had an appreciation for it, but I've like lately I've been seeing more how it's so simple and how in Daryl's mind he can read and react, and you know he's just making simple reads over and over and over again, and just it's so fundamentally sound, which is great for our offense. Defensively, we have some guys step up, and you know like I have our stats here, so it's nice for us to see like Skylar had 7.5 tackles. One of our new recruits, Roshan, came up with 6 tackles, and majority of those being solo. So it was awesome to see guys all stepping up and doing big things, and seeing the stat sheet filled up on that side, which resulted in the game. And now the game did get really close at the end there. Like, they definitely had their on. They had a late coverage blown, and they got close and everything. But it was definitely a back and forth game. And I know last year we felt we could get the win against Edmonton, but this year is nice to where we can fulfill that and move on from there and carry forward that on to next year.
Yeah, we had a really good game against them last year in Edmonton. Yeah, you're right. Daryl's offense is very simple, but the thing with that, what he does is, and it doesn't really matter if teams kind of know the concepts. Like, Daryl knows what he's looking for. He knows how to read a defense. He knows what guy to throw to, depending on the coverage that he sees, and he is making the right decisions most of the time. And when you've got a guy like Alex, and you've got a couple other guys that can catch the ball when counted on, you're going to have some success. And I think teams need to maybe stop underestimating the Pack. You guys now have a chance to, you got the Irish and the Cowboys. There's a very realistic chance you could finish 4-2, which I don't think anybody saw coming. So I don't know if we're going to end up playing you guys in the playoffs, but if we do, it's going to be another great game. And I think that most teams are now at least appreciating what the Pack are doing. And obviously, I think you guys have some holes on defense that you guys got to figure out. But that offense is going to keep you in games. And regardless of if people know what's going on or not, Daryl's going to get the job done. He's leading the league in passing right now, leading the league in touchdowns, on his way to definitely being in contention for MVP of the league. I think his teammate Alex Soretsky is right there as well. That'll be an interesting decision, and see what happens at the end with that. But no, congratulations, Pack.
One thing I wanted to add, I think, with because Daryl threw for 459 yards, and I think that's going to put him over 1,000 already with 2 games to go. So
yeah,
I know, like your young quarterback Brett, like he's been slinging too, and like I'm waiting to see like the full stats come out and see how everything shakes down. But it's awesome. Then I know our weak point is our run defense. I think that's something that I think we saw the stats, and we've given up like 700 yards rush defense. Which, hey, you know what? We're working on it every week, day by day, and it's something that we're aware of and we'll strive to do. But I think as well our pass, our offensively, this is now where I don't count us out in any game, because offensively, like, the running joke we had in the locker room was Daryl's eating cinnamon buns and torching dudes for 450. So, man was like scoffing to like 4 cinnamon rolls.
Oh my God. That's pretty much the exact opposite of my, it goes to tell you, man, there's multiple ways to get it done, because you won't see me eating a cinnamon roll. That's for sure. But whatever works, man, the guy's still slinging it. So 459 yards. Yeah. Leading the league in passing again. Like, what else can you say? Like, is he ever going to stop? I don't know. He probably won't. Okay, moving on to this week. First off, we've got Bucks heading to the Jets. So, we're hopefully going to travel pretty well. Better than last week, I think, at least definitely defensively. For us, we understand we're going to get Cold Lake's best. We understand Cold Lake is upset. They want to come out. They don't want to lose their undefeated streak at home. They want to put on a show. They want to rebound. They don't want to. We both have buys next week, and neither team wants to go into the bye with a loss. But specifically Cold Lake, right? Like, you're the favorite of the league. You've been the favorite forever. Since we did podcast 1, they've been the favorite in the league, defending national champions. They can't lose 2 in a row. They don't want to lose 2 in a row. They don't want to sit on a bye week losing 2 in a row. So we know we're going to get their best. And I have kind of told that to my guys, and we've got good leaders on the team that are communicating that. And guys, I think, understand the moment. They understand what this game means. They understand how important it is to us, not just in the win or loss column, because at the end of the day, I believe that wherever we fall in the playoffs, we have enough talent to go off and win the championship in the end. But what it's going to do for us is we're going to get the best of the best. We're getting the defending national champions on their home field coming off a loss, last game of the season. They're polished. They're ready to go. They're mad, defending national championships. They don't want to lose their undefeated streak at home. So, hey, we're going out there to play. We're going out there to battle. We're going out there to do whatever we can to get better, to learn. And if we can find a win, I mean, even better. But regardless of the result, we are going to be taking a lot out of this game, who we are as a team, where we are as a team going into playoffs. So hopefully we stay healthy. Hopefully we have a good group going up there. I'm always going to pick my team to win. So I'm going to say Bucks are going to win. I think this is going to be a nice low scoring game. So I'm going to say Bucks 17, Cold Lake 14. So it's going to come down to me kicking probably a 37-yard field goal from the left hash marks, tie game, 2 seconds left for the win. I don't want that to happen because I actually hate kicking. I'm not actually a kicker. I just happen to kick because no one else can, and I can kick the ball. But as far as like actually being a kicker, it's not my thing, and I don't really enjoy it, but we'll take it. So if I got a chance to win the game with a field goal in Cold Lake, I'll take that all day long. So I think Bucks 17, Jets 14. What are your thoughts on the game?
That's going to be – I'm interested to see how you guys attack their defense. Attack their defense, not because they have any holes, but because how you guys – I feel like you guys have a team that can adapt to a lot of different strategies and formations and how you want to have your game plan. Because you guys have a solid line. You guys can go into a tight end package, double tight end package if you like. You can you can go 6-pack. Like you guys you're very mobile in that way, which I'm excited to see in like maybe in like some other offenses where there's maybe some like regimentation where it's like, hey, we're only doing this because it's our way. We're doing things. I feel with you guys and with you at the lead, you can say, hey, this is what's working. We're gonna do this, and not say overhaul, but add it in and then run it. So I feel like that's now where I do think you guys will have success defensively, not because you're gonna like match a better, maybe not match a better here and there, but just with how you're gonna game plan that game really well, and you're gonna have the full support of your team back in your game plan. I do think it's gonna be a slightly higher scoring game. Who to take here now? This is the question. Let's go with and like this is something too now where I'm gonna feed off the hot hand here. I'm gonna go off the hot hand. Bucks will take the win. 22-19. And 22-19, a little higher scoring, close game as well. Just you guys come in a hot hand, everything, and like you guys have a strong team coming together, and it all depends on how you guys travel as well. And go from there. That's my bet there. I'm sure I'm going to get some DMs and some next time we play Cole. I'm sure I'll get some comments on the field, but it's if I have to eat some humble pie, hey, I'll eat it. It's
Hey, I had to last week. I didn't think Airdrie had a shot. So that's why we play the football games, right? Like it's this is what makes this year so great. We'll leave your game last. So Cowboys traveling to the Elite. Now, if the Elite were traveling to the Cowboys, I would pick the Cowboys to win this game because their defense is that good. But because Grand Prairie has to travel, I think in Edmonton, like, are they falling apart or are they going to come together? That's the question. You're 1-3. You had huge expectations. You lost to a team that you didn't think you would have any problem with last week in the pack. Where is your attitude right now? How are you feeling as a group? I have a slight feeling they might be pushing apart from each other. I'm not in that locker room, so I do not know. I know there are some good leaders in that locker room, but something feels wrong. Something feels a little iffy with that team. So I'm going to pick Edmonton to win solely because I think Grand Prairie really struggles to move the football. And I don't know if I think they're going to need to score at least 10 points. I don't know if they can. I don't know if the Elite can score many against this Grand Prairie defense either. Although I do believe one of Grand Prairie's corners, I think Isaiah maybe, is leaving to the play junior. So that could be an opening. I don't know who the replacement would be there, but I don't know. I think Edmonton might be falling apart a little bit. We're going to see this week. What do they come out with? I hope Grand Prairie wins. I really do hope Grand Prairie wins this game. I don't think that they will, so I have to pick with my head and not my heart. So I'm going to say Edmonton finds a way on the back of Mitchell Phillips to win this game. I'm going to say like 14-9 is going to be my 14-9 lead over.
I can take that. I'll take that. I'll take that to 14-9. Yeah. I can take that. It's how long is the drive from Grand Prairie to Edmonton? Like 4 hours, 5 hours?
5 hours. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not the worst. You can drive down and up. I feel like that's close enough to where if Grand Prairie really wants it, they can put together a good road team and gas cars, however they handle up there, and get a good team down and be the hot hand here again, where both teams are coming for a loss, and I feel like Grand Prairie plays well, and I feel like there's definitely a game of like they edge on like being together. They can get a win there, and it'll be exciting to see how they handle it, and I guess how the defenses perform. I do think it's gonna be a defensive game. That I think it will be for sure. Which defenses are they going to get the most stops at the right time, and as well who can score? Because I do think there's going to be some turnovers, interceptions, fumbles, this, that, whatever you call it, whatever you want. But I think there's going to be some turnovers there. But I like the 14-9 for the Cowboys.
For the Cowboys or for the Elite?
Cowboys, for the Cowboys.
Oh, you're picking Cowboys. Okay, cool. I'm going 14-9 for the Elite. So same kind of score, but yeah, I think the Elite are going to find a way to do that. I would challenge the Elite to come together as a group, because you lose this game and I don't know if you're going to do very well for the rest of the year. So Grand Prairie does have a chance. If they can beat the Elite here, they would have the tiebreaker over the Elite, and they could finish 5th instead of 6th, which means just slightly maybe easier of a matchup. Now, that being said, what is an easier matchup when I think any team can beat any team on any given day, honestly? Even Grand Prairie, they didn't lose too badly to Cold Lake. They just couldn't score at all. So last game, your game, Irish Pack. This is a game I'm really excited for. We kick off at 6. You guys kick off at 7. So I will be flipping on the live stream as soon as our game is over, as soon as I get a chance, back at the hotel, hopefully watch kind of the tail end of that game. I have a couple here. I don't know who I'm cheering for yet, because it depends on how we do. So if we win, I'm going to be cheering for you guys, because that means I need Airdrie to lose. But if we lose, I'm going to be cheering for Airdrie, because I got to be cheering against you guys, because if we lose and you guys win that game, then you guys could end up finishing ahead of us in the standings of going 4-2. So I don't know who I want to win yet, because that depends on how we do. But when it comes to who I think is going to win, I have a little bit of loyalty to the Pack. And so I do think the Pack are going to find a way to win. I've been picking them all year. I'm going to accept when they played against us. And I'm going to go again. I think Airdrie is coming off a really hot run. Again, I love what Anton's doing down there. I love what that group is doing down there. I think the Wolfpack are going to be fired up for this one. I think both teams coming off a big win are going to be fired up. Airdrie is going to be able to move the ball. They are going to be able to run it. They're probably going to be able to pass it. So now the question is, can Daryl keep up against that Airdrie defense? I think the answer is probably yes. If Airdrie has a good enough game plan and can shut down Soretsky, maybe a different story. But I think the Pack are going to squeak one out here. I think I'm going to go 28-24 Pack over Irish. What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. It's going to be good old rivalry week.
Why is that hard to say? I struggled saying that too. It's going to be rivalry week. That's a weird. I don't know. It's a hard thing to say. Everyone right now everyone in their car right now is like just paused it and is like, rivalry week. Yeah, no, it's difficult, guys.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be one that's a lot of guys we played with from previous years. This, that. I know. This is not one thing with it. Like, I know some of the old guard, they have their reservations, and like there's the, previous drama and everything. And like, this is now the big thing I've been telling our young guys, like, look, you guys are new to the team, new to the culture. What happened in the past, that's like let the old guard handle that. We're here to play ball. You're here to compete. Just handle your business and really just own what you can. Own what you can. Like, don't be here smack talking. Like, try and limit that, because I feel like that's now where we want to keep this to be a very competitive game and not be one of those chippy games, because we're here to compete. We're here to it's different now, because I guess playoff implications are now in play for both of us, where they're looking to get a win on that side. We're looking to get a win, but then there's also like we want the bragging rights, because basically whoever wins is going to have bragging rights for the entire year. And you don't want to be on the side of it being like, oh, we won. Like, me and Marshall, the running back number 7 for Irish, we work out at One for All. And like, I'm hunting. I really want to get this dub here, because the last thing I need is him to be like, we won again, as he's a spotting me or racking the weight or something like that, or pushing the sled. So it's definitely a game like that, because it's like, if your little brother ever beats you or something, you always hear about it. So it's something too now where there's some fun there, but honestly, it's going to come together where like, hey, they're going to have their game plan. They're going to feel very composed. Yes, I do. They're definitely going to run the ball. Like, I know with Shaver and Marshall at the back, there's going to be some personal ties there. So they definitely want to have their input and run the ball, which that's cool. That's expected. And, we're going to need to make plays in other areas of the game. So that's just something now. That's the thing now too, where we want to make sure we do our part. Don't let it get chippy. Stay in the zone. We feel good about it. For the score wise, I do feel like our offense matches up quite well against our defense. Like, again, having Daryl on his pace right now, the way our offense is clicking, even though they're probably thinking, hey, we shut down Soretsky, they're good. I feel quite confident with, myself, Zion, Tim, Derek, all of us guys who, we're not probably not names you've heard of, but, young guys are coming in and ready to go. So I feel quite confident in our ability to pass the ball around and be quite balanced if we ever need to be. So it's not just the fastest cow show. It's going to be, the full Wolfpack coming together. That's going to keep us moving forward. And if I'm really going to make sure Daryl gets his cinnamon buns and make sure he has 5 for 500 yards. I think each cinnamon bun has like a 100-yard implication to it. So I'll do what we need to do there. But I'm going to say for us here, it's going to be 35-28. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Lots of plays being made. But I feel like if we can, squeak out to where we get the ball the last bit, Daryl's going to do his thing, march on the field, and we walk away with a tug. 35-28, touchdown ahead is what I'm taking for us here.
100 yards per cinnamon bun is pretty good. That is pretty damn good. And whatever works, Daryl. Not my cup of tea. But hey, you got to get those sticky buns in, or cinnamon buns, whatever you call them. And that's if it works, it works.
You know what it is? It's the icing off the cinnamon bun and adds grip to the ball, so you can get a tighter spiral. That's what it must be.
Science. So we're teaching science and math on this podcast. So if each cinnamon bun is worth 100 yards, and each sticky substance is worth an extra zip on the spiral, you know what I mean? So, maybe Daryl is a mad scientist, maybe some sort of weird mathematician. But definitely what he is the GOAT of the AFL. The guys, they're 50-something years old, 459 yards in the game is just insane. So, if you guys can keep getting production from your kind of secondary guys outside of Soretsky, it's who knows what you guys can do. And if you can get some shutdown on the run game, it can be, I think, really anyone's league. So every team should be feeling pretty good about themselves. Even Grand Prairie, that's 0-4. There's a lot of good things about that group. You guys, this has just been a really fun year. It's been the perfect year to start this podcast, because, it's so much better to come on this game or come on the podcast and talk about games that aren't 100 to like, what are we talking about, in years where teams are beating teams 100-0. Oh yeah, let's talk about this game. Oh, it was 100-0. Okay. Moving on. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's really cool to see that, I was excited to talk about these games this week, excited to get on this podcast, excited for this coming week. Like, just as a fan of the league, I can't wait to see how all these other games play out, how our game plays out. So I'm really looking forward to that. Okay. Anything else, Amari? If not, send us out.
Yeah, I think that's everything from me. I think the last thing I wanted to mention was I think we had all 3 games live streamed, which was sick.
Perfect.
That was awesome because it's nice because it's nice for as players for like, oh, like there's a game before us, like catch in quick, like tune in, see what the score is, and like try and be there virtually, which is nice. And the AFL YouTube channel is making some great headway there, and I know there's been some talk of like really trying to do it big for either the first round of playoffs or the AFL finals. So there's some big plans there to have it go, and just hear a lot of good players say, hey, they appreciate the opportunity to, see the games live stream, families tune in and everything. The one thing I want to mention is for those listening in, like if you're able to go and like subscribe to the AFL YouTube channel and as well AFL Uncensored, that goes a lot because the big goal there is to have the AFL channel get to 1,000 subscribers where it can open up some revenue opportunity for the league. And I spiel about this a lot, but that's kind of where we like to see it. And if you're unsubscribed, subscribe. I'm sure I can say all the things that Mr. Beast says or something like that and go from there. But other than that, that's it from me. Anything else you want to end us off here with, Teach?
No, thanks everyone for listening. Thank you everyone for the support. We're always just really trying to do a good job here and give you guys good information and be honest and truthful and speak our minds and speak. I mean, for me, it's great because I love speaking my mind. I love getting stuff off my chest. I'm not a journaler, but I like to kind of talk about things that are either annoying me or making me happy or whatever it might be. So thanks for everyone for the positive comments that Omari and I get at all our games, and continue the trash talk. I love it. It's been a lot of fun. At the end of the day, we're all dudes with the same goals, sacrificing the same things and playing this game, which is just so amazing. I hope the league can get some shit figured out. I think there's so much potential, like we've always said with this league. So I'm hoping for that. Hopefully the website gets up here soon. Other than that, drive safe, everybody. Have good games this weekend. And our next episode is episode 20. So I'm hoping to get some special guests on for that one that I think everyone will be excited for. So I'll figure that out hopefully soon. And yeah, drive safe. And that's it for me.
Yeah. I appreciate everyone tuning in. You can find us on Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere where you get your podcasts, on YouTube as well. Hey, I think we're delivering this episode here a couple days earlier. So, if you want to save it for the pod, save it for your road trip endeavors, or listen to it before practice. Do what you got to do. Looking forward to another round of exciting football. I think it's our next weekend of 3 games, and we go back to 2 games because there's going to be 2 byes. But it's been an exciting time here for the AFL all around.
Awesome. Thanks, Omari. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks, Danny Warwick, Warwick Grain Carriers. Thanks, Travis Savitsky. Thanks, Jeff Rambo. Again, we're always looking for sponsorship donations. Reach out if you have any. Have a great week. Stay safe. We'll catch you next week.